Hi everyone, welcome to EDU 5101. My name is Rachel Grant and I'm going to be your professor this semester. In our initial Getting to Know You survey, a lot of you stated that you were a little bit excited and nervous, a little uncertain perhaps of what this course actually entails, given how incredibly vague the course description is, which I can't say I disagree with you. So in the syllabus, I've outlined some specific learning objectives for our class. So upon successful completion of this course, you should be able to analyze and critique approaches to teaching and learning and their application to diverse, dynamic learning environments, apply theoretical and conceptual expertise with regards to teaching, learning, and education in your context and/or concentration, clearly articulate your current philosophy of teaching and learning, including reflection on your teaching practices and values, grounded in theoretical perspectives and scholarly professional literature on teaching and learning. In collaborative multi-literacy circles, interpret, critically analyze, and thoughtfully discuss scholarly literature and other resources, such as websites and videos, focusing on historical and contemporary issues and approaches to teaching and learning. And finally, identify a current educational issue in your field and create a product exploring the historical and theoretical underpinnings, related current scholarly and professional literature, and implications for teaching and learning in your context and/or concentration. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a better idea of what specifically we're going to be doing in this class. And as you're looking at the modules for this course, you'll notice that a lot of the course is structured around our textbook, Engaging Mind. And it's important to note in this class that we are using the third edition. Please note that the first and second editions are very, very different from the third version. I find this book to be a really great introduction to the discipline of education. Like many of you, I don't have a background in teaching per se. I don't have a bachelor's of education. I started off my career as a nurse, so I found this book to be really helpful, kind of getting me up to speed on the field of education when I started in this program. Another really good one, also by Brent Davis, is Inventions of Teaching, but more on that another time. Engaging Minds is structured around 4 historical moments in the evolution of modern schooling, starting around the 1600s, 1700s, going in towards modern day. Now, this doesn't mean that teaching and learning didn't exist prior to 1600s and 1700s, but rather we're just looking at modern Western schooling. And in fact, the authors do make some mention back to previous notions and the conceptions of teaching, particularly with the use of language, such as where words like educate come from in the English language. But the creation of modern schooling is a massively important historical moment when we're trying to understand teaching and learning, and it continues to influence education to this day. So what are these 4 moments? Well, the first one is standardized education, and this one started around 1600s, 1700s, which was in response to industrialization and urbanization. In short, they wanted to model the youth for the workforce, so teaching very much became like a factory line. And in this moment, education and knowledge is seen as being more of a commodity or something that you can acquire. Industry concerns about standards permeate this moment, and that's where we see things like standards and quality control and efficiency. Authentic education is the second moment that we're looking at, and this really came to be in the last century. Here, education became less directive and more attentive to individuals. So some important ideas you'll see here are things like developmental stages, more individualized attention to students, even the importance of engagement within education. And this was triggered by a couple of things. One was more research being done into how people actually learn, and also the middle class that were demanding that they wanted more from schooling. In this moment, knowing is looked at more of an individual level, and it's understood as whether or not the learner can accommodate or assimilate new information into an existing schema. And the civil rights movements in the 1960s gives rise to our third movement, democratic citizenship education. And a really important idea in this moment is that schools, instead of challenging some of the inequities we see within our society, instead they are perpetuating and contributing to them. And in this moment, teaching takes on more of a social justice slant and an ethical slant. Teaching just isn't about giving students information, it's about being an advocate, it's about raising awareness about issues. As teachers, we have an ethical endeavor to contribute to social justice, and we do this by empowering our learners. And the final moment is systemic sustainability education. This one's a little bit trickier, but it is my favorite of the 4 moments. And I think a lot of students initially struggled to get their mind around this one, probably because it is the newest moment. And a lot of us haven't really experienced this at all in our education. This movement really moves away from the more industrial-focused, mechanical understandings of education. This moment's more ecologically minded, so as educators we consider things, including biology, we consider things in the more than human world, as we call it, like even like things like your computer. That's important teaching and learning as well. And knowing is seen as a vibrant and living system. It's a pretty cool moment, and I look forward to discussing it with you all. Now, there are a few important things that we need to talk about with regards to these moments. The first thing that's important to note is that these moments are not the opposite of the one that came previously. Each of these moments is building on a lot of the ideas and thinking that was espoused in the previous one, but they are not opposites. Nor as educators can we necessarily really firmly fit ourselves into one of these moments. While I tend to be a bit more aligned with the fourth moment, I do use elements of the first moment, standardized education. For example, I use rubrics in my teaching. I also use learning objectives, and these all are influenced by standardized education. The second important thing to note is that when the authors were writing these chapters, they aren't necessarily advocating for any of these moments. So in writing about standardized education, Brent Davis and the other authors aren't necessarily saying, this is the way to teach. Nor when they wrote the fourth moment, which is the moment that at least I know Brent Davis is more aligned with, were they saying, this is the one and the best way to teach. While, like I said, I think the authors would say they're a little more aligned with this one, they do acknowledge that a lot of the ideas that come within this moment evolved from the previous ones. And likewise, a lot of our new ideas and conceptions about teaching are going to evolve and build upon what we already know. So for example, while our book ends with the fourth moment, that's not actually the end. Right now, there are already new thoughts and ideas that are evolving, and eventually the next edition is probably going to have a fifth moment, and one day there'll be a sixth and a seventh. So it doesn't end here. In fact, this is just the beginning. So I hope this little overview was helpful in getting you familiar with some of the ideas and concepts we're going to be talking about in this course. And I'll be talking more specifically about our class structure and the assignments you'll be doing in this course in a subsequent video. And that's all for now, folks, and I'll talk to you all online. Bye!